Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 10. Okay, so first off, one thing I noticed pretty much just now from from that recap of the ending of last week's episode is that I failed to mention that the anime it did kind of tone down Kirishima's injuries a lot, and it did kind of tone down a lot of Kirishima's injuries, and because of that. It does slightly undercut the moment between him and Fat Gum at the beginning of the episode. Don't get me wrong. It overall is still largely emotional because of seeing the flashback of when Kirishima had first come to Fat Gum's agency. But it does kind of take just the fact that Kirishima isn't as beat up as he should be. It does kind of take me out of the moment. Just from Kirishima's injuries being largely toned down. I mean, I kind of get what Bones was going for in the sense that they were trying to make it make a little more sense, and they were trying to make it make it feel like he pretty like his powers had developed too, but yeah, it did kind of it is a little bit of a it is kind of a separation. It is kind of a separation there, so to speak. It's not necessarily bad, but it does the scene overall does its job. But yeah, just realizing that Bones had toned down a lot of Kirishima's injuries is a little iffy to say the least. Not bad, just iffy. And yeah, I said it last week, but Rappa wanting to continue to fight with Kirishima shows that for as deranged as he sounds, for him it's his to Rappa, it's his own weird way of showing like mutual respect as a fighter, which again, kind of, in a weird way, it really blurs the line in this particular scenario of like between hero and villain. So it's and that seems to be the biggest thing I've picked up on from, and that seems to be the biggest like theme I've picked up on like in terms of this arc overhaul, and just revisiting this arc in the anime, is that the biggest theme is kind of just that blur. It's genuinely touching on that blurred line between what exactly is a hero and what exactly is a villain. Honestly, like when you get right down to it, a lot of these guys are just people at the end of the day. In fact, one major thing with this episode we dive into a little deeper with is what exactly like Shisaki Overhaul's plan is by Rappa pretty much spilling the beans on everything he knows. And the thing is, even if the thing with this one is that even if the whole distribution part is correct, part of his plan is correct in the way that Rappa describes it, you still do very much get a sense of deception from what the actual end game goal is for Overhaul. And just in this episode alone, you basically you get you definitely get more of the sense that even though his actions are extreme, Overhaul himself could in fact be trying to help society in what he's doing. I mean, it's gonna sound far fetched with pretty much how pretty much dark and grim it's been portrayed, and what he's doing to Eri, but yeah, for as dark as his actions is, he might be trying to help everyone, like the entire world of quirks and whatnot. But yeah, I won't get into details. I'll talk more about that when it's revealed. Now one part of the episode is basically focusing on was focused on basically a large part of this episode. What was focused on basically Iranaka and him trying to like trap everyone with his quirk, I suppose. was trying to trap everyone was trying to trap everyone in the compound. And now, one interesting thing to come out of this episode in terms of seeing that, in terms of Uranaka's whole thing of trying to trap everyone, is we learn Rocklock's ability, which is to basically stop, which is pretty much stop like things in, which is stop the movement of inanimate objects, so to speak. I think that's what it was. Um, and the reason why that in itself is interesting is because it shows it. But by having Rocklock here and learning his ability, it shows just how meticulous that Night Eye has planned this operation, and it gives us the sense that he kind of, for a lack of a better term, foresaw each of these situations happening even without his quirk. And granted that there were a few things like the League of Villains getting involved that even he didn't foresee. But yeah, you pretty much get the sense that everything that's happened has been going by his calculations and by everything he's done in order to prepare for this operation. It's pretty much gone exactly as he thought it would. But of course, but like the first hitch in that, the first hitch being the League of Villains, and yeah, it's going to be a bit of a growing thing where you're going to see a lot of Night Eyes, a lot of Night Eyes, like initial like thoughts and predictions of what's going to happen kind of go a little more astray here and there, but in the good way. So now let's talk pacing, because in context of this episode, we really didn't cover a whole lot, only like 3 chapters worth of material. But despite that, we're actually believe it or not, guys, we're actually nearing very close to the end of the arc. As after this, there's really only about 13 chapters left to cover, possibly. There's only 13 chapters left to cover, so possibly. So I'd say right now, given what I know, possibly episode 14, maybe 15, is where this arc is going to reach its conclusion, and that in itself is kind of crazy to me, because I remember when I was reading this stuff in the manga, from week to week, it was more or less a little bit of a slog to get through. I can't deny that. Like it was a lot of the content itself was still good, but from week to week, just the pacing of it did feel rather slow in a lot of areas. But honestly, but at the same time, revisiting in the anime, it's not as bad as I remember it being, and I think part of that too is that just when it comes to animation, you like just sequences and moments just have a tendency in order to move faster in animation. So I think there's that too. But yeah, like this arc really isn't as bad as like when it came to pacing. This arc actually isn't as bad as I remember it being. Now, the climax is still going to be the biggest question, obviously, with this, because that's again, I know I've said it, but with us like nearing the climax, that's where things get interesting to talk about for sure. But yeah. And yeah, let's talk about the main attraction of the episode, which is Himiko and Twice essentially showing up on the scene. And, you know, it's funny, I never really appreciated the fact that they were a part of this arc until now. I mean, I thought it was cool they were there, but this episode made me realize the pretty much genuine danger of them being here. Like their pretty much powers are and by association, obviously, the League being temporary allies, the She Has like it's one of those things where looking at what Toga and Twice do in this episode, they pretty much don't do a lot, but they still do like a lot of things that makes you say, okay, yeah, these guys are genuinely kind of, yeah, they're pretty much a genuine threat in order for the Shi Hasakai to have on their side. Like it's and but even more than that, this episode in a lot of ways is the starting point for a lot of great development later on for Toga, Twice, and pretty much Shigaraki. I mean, don't get me wrong. We get a lot of great development in this episode, but what happens later beyond this point is insane. Like this is just their again. I've been using from Hotokoshi likes to use this term a lot, and I've been using it a lot now. But in a weird way, this is like from Twice and Toga's starting line. Like this is where their true development really comes into play. And yeah, it's gonna get their development is gonna get crazy from here. Just for anime only is just. Yeah, you guys are in for a treat when it comes to Toga and Twice in particular, and Shigaraki. I mean, and yeah, the thing about Toga and Twice's actions in this episode, it also shows a lot of Shigaraki's development because by Shigaraki putting his trust in them and trust in them in order to keep an eye on the Shihasakai, it shows his development as a leader and how he's not restraining them. Like he wants them to grow, but at the same time, it's also a situation where it happens to coincide with the fact that they are the best choice to keep tabs on the Yakuza, and yeah, so and if anything, Overhaul requesting Twice and Toga it's like looking back on this, it made me realize that like Overhaul requesting Twice and Toga might very well have been the one major mistake he's made during this whole arc. Like from Twice, like it's like his pretty much their powers are their pretty much powers are their powers in some ways are Twice and Toga's powers are the worst kind of powers in order for Chisaki like to have. So it's obvious that's pretty much the reason as to why he requested them is to kind of keep them away from basically Shigaraki. But by requesting them at the same time, he's put himself in a very tenuous and terrible situation because you can only imagine the kind of information that Toga has probably like acquired at this point. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of me, signing off. Later, guys.